Now I continue today in 1 Timothy chapter number 3. And when I left the radio yesterday, we were dealing with the qualifications of the bishop. And in verse number 3, Paul states, not given to wine. I dealt with the matter of alcohol or strong drink. There is no question that in the scripture there is a prohibition against the matter of the consumption and the use of alcohol, especially the use of alcohol as a beverage. And you might be able to defend the position of alcohol as a medication. Give wine to the man, strong drink to the man that's about to perish. But we are dealing with the matter of using it as a beverage, the consumption of alcohol, alcoholic beverages. And Paul, it seems to be quite clear in being in opposition to the matter of the consumption of alcohol, especially for the bishop. And I pointed out yesterday, if you look at the syntax of these two verses, the grammatical construction, a bishop then must be given to hospitality. And we find that in verse number 2, a man that is given, easily given over to the area of hospitality. But then in the structure of the passage, we find not given, negatively, positively given to hospitality, negatively not given to wine. It doesn't say not given to much wine, not given to wine. So this would be a position of the bishop being a teetotaler. I've never had a drop of alcohol in my body in my life. I don't know what strong drink tastes like. Now, I never plan to find out. As far as the use of alcohol, alcoholic beverages, I've never been intoxicated. I don't know what it is to be under the influence of alcohol, and I don't ever plan to find out. And I think that one of the reasons, in fact, all of these qualifications that are given to the bishop, generally, we only look at one of them, and as long as he's the husband of one wife, if his marriage is right, we really don't care what else, just as long as his marriage is right. And I think that we shortchange ourselves, we shortchange a congregation. Because all of these qualifications, a bishop then must be, and the first of those is blameless, then the husband of one wife. But the passage would read, he must be vigilant, he must be sober, he must be of good behavior, he must be given to hospitality, he must be apt to teach, he must not be given to wine. All of these qualifications would fall into the same criteria. For instance, I wouldn't call a man to pastor a church, and the pulpit committee hears him preach and interviews him and looks into his life, and I wouldn't call a pastor to preach that had a credit score of 450 or 500. Apparently there is a problem there concerning the management of money, and the management of money is a reflection of one's character, what one is and what one certainly is not. And so somebody that has a low credit score, I mean, there's a reason why they have a low credit score. That would need to be hashed out. Truly, they might have had a medical emergency that arose, but then they may not be able to manage money well. That would fall into the area of not greedy of filthy lucre. Generally, people that don't have any money spend a great deal of time talking about how bad they need that money. Well, why has that happened, you see? Not given to wine. If I knew that a man drank, I would not seat him as a pastor, as a bishop in the local assembly. Can you imagine sitting in the congregation and wondering whether or not the pastor standing before you preaching tonight or today has been consuming adult beverages, has been consuming alcoholic beverages? Then Paul goes on to say, not given to wine, negatively again, no striker. No striker. Now, the word striker is defined in Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary as a quarrelsome man. A quarrelsome man. The matter of striker is one that strikes, or that which strikes. And striking is defined as hitting with a blow, or imprinting or punishing another individual. Striking is defined as affecting with strong emotions, forcibleness, being forcible, going into a rage. No striker. Now, all of us are familiar with men in the course of our life, in society, and of course we've seen a tremendous amount of this with the protests, the anarchy that we have watched in our streets, and the protests that have been unfolding in our streets. And that is, all of that is to incite fear in the hearts of men and in the hearts of the population. Those anarchists and Antifa, they are claim to be anti-fascist. But if you want to see the definition of fascism, then look at Antifa, and you are watching you are seeing fascism in action by looking at Antifa. They claim to be anti-fascist, but they are anything but that. They are the definition of fascism. They are striking out, creating a quarrel. All of the race baiters that we have seen recently that find race in everything. I mean, they find a racial component in everything. And those race baiters, they are strikers. They are quarrelsome individuals. Now, I've run into a few preachers along the way in the course of my 40 years in the ministry that were quarrelsome individuals. They were always at war with somebody or something. It was taught in some circles years ago that a young preacher boy goes into a town and tries to build a church, and they would teach that in order for you to go into that church, you need to build a church, but you need to build a name. And the way you build a name is you go find somebody to go to war with, and you pick a fight. Get in the newspaper, get on the nightly news, lead a protest, get a gathering of people together, and you go to war with somebody. You find a crooked lawyer in town, you go to war with him, or you go to war with a liquor store in town, or you go to war with a brewery or an alcohol distribution company, and you find somebody and you go to war with them. You strike out against them. And yet, I find in this passage that the bishop is not to be a striker. Now, what I'm saying is not to be confused with becoming soft or liberal. What I'm saying should not be taken the wrong way and confused as let's go along to get along. Obviously, you and I are told by the same Apostle Paul, we are to stand, quit you like men, be strong. There is no place for compromise, especially in the area of Bible doctrine and theology. But there are some things that we have gone to war with as a matter of aggrandizement rather than for the benefit of our congregation. Not every war or battle is worth fighting. And there are some hills that I'm not prepared to die on. There are other hills that I'll be glad to die on. The matter of the King James Bible, if I was told I had to preach out of a modern translation, I just wouldn't. I'm just not going to do that. That's a bridge too far. I'm not going to do that. To deny premillennialism or pre-tribulationism, I'm not going to do that. If I have to stop preaching to hold my position on premillennial doctrine, I'll just do that. But at the same time, there are some things that in our society, in a free society, there are some fights I'm not going to pick. Now, if the fight is brought to me, then I'm not going to run from it. But there are some fights that I'm not going to generate. I think that's exactly what the Apostle Paul is stating. No striker, not a quarrelsome man. There are some men, and I see some of this on Twitter and on Facebook, in the cesspool that is called social media. And they try to keep something stirred up all the time. They'll ask a very provocative question, then they'll back out of the way and let the brethren go to war with each other and arguing with each other, and they'll just back out of the way and watch the brethren tear each other apart and destroy fellowship and destroy unity and harmony one with the other. Such as that is a striker. The bishop is not to be given to being a striker. He's not to be given to being a quarrelsome man. He is not to be given to hitting out and striking out at individuals. Standing for the truth, there's no doubt that we'll stand for the truth. And when the matter of the truth comes under attack, and when the matter of a pure doctrine comes under attack, why, that's a hill I'm willing to die on. I'm going to stand, and having done all, stand. But I'm not going to go to war for the sake of going to war. I'm not going to go to war because I have nothing better to do. I have many things that are much more important for me to be occupied in what I'm doing right now. Preaching on these 36 radio stations that God has opened up for me. The privilege to stand and expound on the Scriptures as I do every day, line by line, verse by verse, precept by precept, is much more important than me picking a fight with some grocery store, or picking a fight with some home improvement store, or picking a fight with some individual. Now, if I'm attacked for my position on the Scriptures, that's a different matter. But it's much more important for me to be doing what I'm doing, to be apt to teach, than it is for me to strike out at men, try to set men at war at odds with each other, to find a man that I can go to war with so that I can get in the newspaper and be recognized like that. The bishop is not to be a striker. The Lord willing, will continue in verse number 3 on the broadcast tomorrow.
Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29602. Visit the website at thebrightspothour.com. This is Mark Ferguson saying